Even immigration will also increase the size of the population, whereas emigration will decrease the size of the population. What are the two types of parasitism? Ectoparasitism and endo. Ecto means the parasites which reside outside the body of the host. Endoparasites, the parasites which reside inside the body of the host. How do some species of insects and frogs avoid being detected easily by the predators? Because they come across a very important adaptation called camouflaging or cryptically colored, so that they can be avoided being identified the predators. Hello everyone, welcome back to the revision session of chapter 11 of 2nd PUC Biology, Organism and Population. Myself, B. Shobharani from the Department of Biology, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, the Temple of Excellence in Mysuru. This particular chapter called Organisms and Population has a weightage of 7 marks. So in this particular session, I will be discussing about the type of questions that were asked pertaining to this particular chapter called Organism and Population in the previous year's question paper, so that you'll get an idea as to what type of questions might be asked pertaining to this particular chapter. We all know that ecology, it's an interrelationship between the living organisms and their physical environment. Ecology is basically concerned with 4 important biological processes. That is, organism, 4 levels of ecology is basically concerned with 4 levels of biological organization, namely organisms, population, communities, and biomes. In this particular chapter, we'll be exploring ecology at population levels. Moving on to the flow chart of this particular chapter. Major biomes of India. As I already said, ecology is basically concerned with 4 levels of biological organization, and one such level is biome, that is organisms, population, communities, and biomes. So, major biomes of India are desert, rainforest, and tundra. Environmental factors. What are the factors that is going to affect the ecosystem? Namely, abiotic factors like temperature, soil, water, and light. Biotic factors means all living organisms. Biotic factors is all living organisms. Population attributes. Population attributes include birth rate, sex ratio, and age pyramids. Age pyramid consists of expanding, stable, and declining. Moving on to the MCQs, that is the multiple choice questions that might be asked pertaining to this particular chapter. As you all know pretty sure that your first part A1 is mainly involved with the MCQs questions. So what type of questions might be asked pertaining to this particular chapter? I've just given one example. Dash states that 2 closely related species competing for the same resources cannot coexist indefinitely, and competitively inferior one will be eliminated eventually. So what do you call that particular relationship? You call it, what was that all about? It is called Gauss competitive exclusion principle. It is called Gauss competitive exclusion principle. Moving on to the type of question. Question number 2. The Abingdon tortoise in Galapagos Island become extinct after goats were introduced on the island. Mention the type of interaction. So we all know that in nature, plants and animals cannot exist in isolation. So they interact with each other in various forms, where we call it as population interaction. So one such interaction is what? Competition, or you call it as competitive exclusion principle. So competition might be intraspecific or interspecific. Intraspecific competition is competition between the same species. Interspecific competition is the competition between 2 different species. So the Abingdon tortoise in Galapagos Island become extinct after goats were introduced on the island. So what is the type of intra-population interaction? Competition. Question number 3. Define the following terms. Adaptations, natality. Adaptations. What do you mean by adaptation? Adaptation is an attribute of an organism. It might be morphological, physiological, and behavioral that enables the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. It's a very, very important factor. We can say without adaptation, no organism can survive in the environment. So may it be morphological adaptation, or may it be physiological adaptation, or behavioral adaptation, so that it enables the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. Moving on to natality. As we all know that population size is not stable, it is fluctuating, and it may fluctuate because of four basic processes. May it be natality, which is otherwise called birth rate, and mortality, which is otherwise called death rate. And these two, particularly natality. What do you mean by natality? Birth rate. Natality refers to the number of births during a given period in the population that are added to the initial density. So population size will increase due to natality, whereas the population size decreases due to mortality. Then mortality, already I told you. Mortality is the number of deaths in the population during a given period. Next, immigration. Even immigration will also increase the size of the population, whereas emigration will decrease the size of the population. So what is immigration? Immigration is the number of individuals of the same species that have come into the habitat from elsewhere during the time period under consideration. Emigration is the number of individuals of the population who left the habitat and gone elsewhere during the time period under consideration. So population size depends on very important factors, that is natality, mortality, immigration, and emigration. Right. So, next, what is brood parasitism? Give an example. Brood, this is very important question from examination point of view. Usually they'll ask this question. What is, and it is for a 2-marker question. What is brood parasitism? Give an example. Brood parasitism. It's a special type of parasitism found in birds. What is this? Why it is called brood parasitism? Because the parasitic birds lay its eggs in the nest of its host and let the host incubate them. Whereas the egg of the host is very similar with that of the egg of the host. So the host bird will think that it is its own egg and it will incubate it and hatch it. So what is the classical example you are going to give for brood parasitism? The cuckoo bird, which lays its eggs in the nest of a crow. Both cuckoo bird and the crow are black in color, and the crow will mistake the cuckoo egg as its own egg and it will incubate it. So what do you call such interaction as brood parasitism? Moving on to the next population interaction called mutualism with example. How do we define the word called mutualism? We have to give a good number of examples. This is also important from examination point of view. So mutualism, what is mutualism? Interaction between two living organisms where both are equally benefited, no one is harmed. So mutualism is plus. No one is harmed. Lichen, you can give an example of lichen, mycorrhiza, pollinating insects, right? Next, lichen. It is an association between phycobiont, that is algal component, and mycobiont, that is fungal component. Next, mycorrhiza. It's a relationship between fungi and root of higher plants. Pollinating insects and flowering plants, fig trees and its pollinating agent wasps. So these are the 4 examples that you are going to give for mutualism. Mutualism is a method of population interaction. A lichen represents close relationship between a fungus and an algae or cyanobacteria. The fungi help the algae. How are they benefited? The fungi help the algae in the absorption of essential nutrients from the soil, while the algae provide food for fungi. Next question. The mycorrhiza are so we have given one example, that is mycorrhiza. The mycorrhiza are the association between fungi and roots of higher plants. How are they benefited? How is the fungi and the roots of higher plants are benefited? The fungi help the plant in the absorption of essential nutrients from the soil, while the plant provides the fungi with carbohydrates. Then plants and pollinating agents. Plant provide nectar and pollen for the pollinating agents like birds and animals. In turn, these agents pollinate the flowers of plants. Plants and seed dispersing agents, that is, animals disperse the seeds of plants, and plants provide juicy and nutritious fruits for seed dispersers. A particular species of a fig tree is pollinated by a species of wasp only. The wasp pollinates the fig inflorescence while searching for suitable site for oviposition, that is for egg laying. So it will be searching for a safe place to lay eggs, and that is provided by the fig tree. In turn, the fig provides the wasp some of its developing seeds as food for the developing wasp larvae. Next, question number 6. Again, this is very important from examination point of view, and it is a 5-marker question. So, as I keep telling you all, split questions might be asked like this, which is very easy for you all to answer and at the same time to score. So, whenever you get questions like split questions for 5 marks, each split question carrying 1 mark, please do attempt such questions because you will score more marks. The answers are also quite easy in answering, and it is not a lengthy answer, so you'll be saving time also. So, Abingdon tortoise and goats in Galapagos. So, what type of interaction is it between Abingdon tortoise and goats in Galapagos Island? Cuckoo lays eggs in crow's nest, sea anemone and clownfish, wasp laying eggs in the fig fruit, orchids and bees. The first one, Abingdon tortoise and goats in Galapagos Island, is competition. It is interspecific competition between 2 different species. Brood parasitism. Cuckoo bird lays the eggs in the nest of the crow, and the crow will mistake the eggs as its own eggs and it will incubate. Next, mutualism, that is sea anemone and clownfish's mutualism. Then sexual deceit. Obviously it will mistake it to be a female bee. The flower looks like a female bee and the bees will pseudo-copulate it. So that is called sexual deceit. So very easy. So each one carries 1 mark. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's very easy to score 5 marks. So please try to attempt such questions where the time taken to write these answers also will be very less, and even you will score the full marks. Moving on to next question, question number 7. Parasites have evolved special adaptations. List them. Parasitic adaptation. Loss of unnecessary sense organs. They don't need sense organs. Presence of adhesive organs. Adhesive organs are nothing but organs to cling on to the host, or it might be like suckers. Then loss of digestive system because they take the ready-made food of the host. Then high reproductive care, they multiply very faster. Parasites having 1 or more intermediate host or vectors to facilitate parasitization of its primary host. Sometimes the parasites may have 1 host or 2 hosts. Then liver fluke has 2 intermediate hosts. I think all of us know liver fluke causes liverosis or liver rot disease, has 2 hosts. One is snail and a fish to complete its life cycle. Question number 8. A prey develops defense against predator. Justify the statement with 2 examples in animals. Insects and frogs are cryptically colored, that is camouflaging. It is one form of defense mechanism by the frogs. Particularly insects and frogs try to avoid being eaten by the predator by changing the body color to the environmental background. That is called camouflaging. And some are poisonous and therefore avoided by the predators. So obviously the predators don't go to such plants or animals where it is distasteful. And monarch butterfly is highly distasteful to its predators. So this is also very important example question from examination point of view. Question number 9. Describe the factors which affect decomposition. Very, very important. Very, very important. We all know that what is decomposition? It's the breakdown of the organic matter into inorganic nutrients. So decomposition is what? It's a largely an oxygen requiring process. Hence it requires more oxygen. So what are the 3 very important factors? Detritus rich in chitin and lignin has slow rate of decomposition, whereas detritus rich in carbohydrate will have faster rate of decomposition. Detritus rich in nitrogen and water soluble substance has faster decomposition. Temperature and soil moisture are most important factors. Warm and moist environment favor decomposition. Low temperature, dryness and anaerobiosis inhibit decomposition. Already I told it is largely and oxygen requiring processes. So the rate of decomposition is very faster when there is availability of more oxygen. Next, what is natality? Already I told natality is nothing but birth rate, number of births during a given period in the population. Next, another very important population interaction, that is commensalism. Explain with any two examples. This is the interaction in which one species benefits and the other is neither benefited nor harmed. So it is plus 0. Commensalism, that is mutualism, plus. So the interaction, both are benefited, no one is harmed. Here one is benefited, the other one is neither harmed nor benefited. Examples, this is also very important from examination point of view. Usually they'll ask commensalism, mutualism, parasitism, brood parasitism. These are the concepts which are very important from examination point of view. So children who are in second PUC and studying biology should concentrate on such concepts which is very important from examination point of view. Orchids growing as an epiphyte on a mango branch, clownfish living among the tentacles of sea anemone, barnacles on back of whales, cattle egret and grazing cattle. Cattle egret, bird it is. Actually, it is a bird and a grazing cattle. Next, what are ectoparasites and endoparasites? We know what are parasites. What are the two types of parasitism, ectoparasitism and endo? Ecto means the parasites which reside outside the body of the host. Endoparasites, the parasites which reside inside the body of the host. So parasites feed on the external surface of the host organisms. Parasites that live inside the host body at different sites, may it be liver, kidney, lungs, red blood cells, are called as endoparasites. List any three parasitic adaptations in animals. Already I told this is very important from examination point of view. So what will be the parasitic adaptations for a parasite to be successful in holding on to the host? Loss of unnecessary sense organs, presence of adhesive organs like suckers to cling to the host, loss of digestive system, high reproductive capacity. Complex life cycle involving one or two intermediate host vectors to facilitate parasitization of its primary host. Question number 13. It's a split question. Write any four factors that influence population density. Draw a graph showing exponential growth curve. And what is sexual deceit? So draw a graph showing exponential curve. Exponential growth curve. It is called exponential growth curve. So there are two growth models. One is called exponential growth curve and the other one is called logistic. Exponential growth curve is J-shaped curve is obtained, whereas for logistic growth curve it is S-sigmoid shaped curve is obtained. So what are, write any four factors that influence population density? As I said, population size or population density is not stable, it is fluctuating. And what are the four basic processes which is going to fluctuate the population density? One is natality, that is the birth rate. The other one is mortality, that is the death rate. Immigration, that is the people who move into the population. And emigration, who move out of the population. So these four are the very important four factors, basic processes that is going to influence the population density. Draw a graph showing exponential growth. I told you it is J-shaped curve. Here you can see the curve here, time against population density. Here you can see it is the J-shaped curve. Next, the next question is what? What is sexual deceit? One petal of Ophrys resembles female bee in size. So male bee pseudocopulates with the flower. It is known as what? Sexual deceit. This is also important from examination point of view. Next, define mortality, the number of deaths in the population in a given period of time. Next, explain mutualism with examples. Already I explained mutualism, it's an associate. That means why the questions what I am discussing in this particular revision session are the questions which are repeatedly asked in the previous question paper. So that is the reason the concepts which are very much important from examination point of view are repeated. So mutualism, I told you all, this is one such concept related to population interaction which is commonly asked in the examination. Mutualism is an association between individuals of two species, both of which are benefited. The mycorrhiza are the association between the fungi and the roots of higher plants. The fungi help the plant in the absorption of water and essential nutrients from the soil, which the plant in turn provides the fungi with carbohydrates. Second one, flowers and insects. Association with insects get nectar and pollen for use as their food, and in turn what do they get? Cross pollination. And in many species of fig trees, I told you, there is a tight one-to-one relationship with the pollinator species of wasp. It means that a given fig species can be pollinated only by its partner wasp species and no other species. The female wasp uses the fruit not only as an oviposition, means to lay eggs side, but uses the developing seeds within the fruit for nourishing its larvae. The wasp pollinates the fig inflorescence while searching for suitable egg-laying sites, and in return for the favor of pollination, the fig offers the wasp some of its developing seeds as food for the developing wasp larvae. That is one interaction. That's one example. Next is what? Mediterranean orchid, which is a good example for sexual deceit. Mediterranean orchid ophis employs sexual deceit to get pollination done by a species of bee. One petal of its flower bears clear resemblance of the female bee in size, color and markings, and that attracts the male bee to the flower and helps in cross-pollination. The male bee is attracted to what it perceives as female, pseudocopulates with the flower, and during that process is dusted with pollen from the flower. When the same bee pseudocopulates with another flower, it transfers pollen to it and thus pollinates the flower. If the female bee color patterns change even slightly or for any reason during evolution, pollination success will be reduced unless the orchid flower co-evolves to maintain the resemblance of its petal, very important, with the female bee. Next, question number 16. What is commensalism? Give an example. It's a split question. Name the type of interaction between algae and fungi in lichen. So what is commensalism? This is the interaction in which one species benefits, the other is neither benefited nor harmed. Example for algae and fungi, for this that is orchids growing as an epiphyte on a mango branch. So algae and fungi in lichen, what is the type of interaction? Commensalism. Next, how do some species of insects and frogs avoid being detected easily by the predators? Because they come across a very important adaptation called camouflaging or cryptically colored, so that they can be avoided being identified the predators. It's one of the defense mechanism. Next, question number 18. What is adaptation? What is brood parasitism? Give an example. What is adaptation? Adaptation is an attribute of the organism. Already I told more, may it be morphological, physiological or behavioral, that enables the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. Brood parasitism, already I told you all, I explained, special type of parasitism found in birds. The parasitic birds lay its eggs in the nest of its host and let the host to incubate them. The egg of the host is very similar with the egg of the host. So cuckoo lays eggs in the nest of the crow. Moving on to the next very important question, that is state Gauss competitive exclusion principle. Two closely related. So what does this Gauss competitive exclusive principle state? It states that two closely related species competing for the same resources cannot exist indefinitely, and the competitively inferior one will be eliminated eventually if the resources are limited. Question number 20. What is population growth? Explain 4 factors responsible for fluctuation of population density. Population growth means, how do you define? The size of the population changes depending on the availability of food, predation pressure and reduce on weather. Population size fluctuated due to changes in 4 basic processes. What are they? Natality and immigration contribute to an increase. So the population size or density increases with 2 very important basic processes. Natality, that is birth rate, and immigration, people moving into the environment or into the population, is immigration. Whereas population density, that is mortality, that is death rate, and emigration, people moving out of the population, decrease. So natality and immigration increase the population size, whereas mortality and emigration decreases the population size. Natality, already I told you, explained number of birth in a given period in the population that are added to the initial density. Mortality, number of deaths in the population in a given period of time. Immigration is the number of individuals of same species that have come into the habitat. People moving into the habitat, plus point. People moving out of the habitat, it is decrease from elsewhere during a given period of time. So this is a very important concept from examination of point of view, where most probably this type of concepts will be asked in the examination. Define the following terms. This is for a 5-marker question. I told you it's a split question. Split question. So these 3 marks, this one 2 marks. So define the following terms: commensalism, brood parasitism, mutualism. Then mention 4 basic processes that fluctuate the density of population in a given habitat. Commensalism, already explained. This is an interaction between 2 organisms in which the smaller partner called commensal is benefited, while the larger partner called host is neither benefited nor harmed. Brood parasitism, in which the females of a species lays its eggs in the nest of another animal. Here the parasitic bird lays its eggs in the nest of host and the host incubates and feeds them. Example, quail and crow. That's the quail bird laying eggs in the crow's nest. Mutualism, it's an association between individuals of 2 species, both of which are benefited. And what are the 4 next split question? Mention 4 basic processes that fluctuate the density of population: natality, that is birth rate; mortality, that is death rate; immigration, that is people moving into the habitat; emigration, people moving out of the habitat. Question number 22. Define mortality. Mortality is the number of deaths in the population during a given period. Define natality. It is the number of births in a given period in the population. Already I explained what is commensalism. Give example: orchids as epiphytes growing on the mango tree; cattle egrets, grazing cattle association; the interaction between sea anemone and clownfish. So this is like very important question. Hope you all have understood the type of question that might be asked from this particular chapter called Organism and Population, which is having a weightage of 7 marks. So the type of questions what I have discussed in this particular revision session of this chapter called Organism and Population are the questions which are repeatedly asked in the previous question paper. So the concepts what I have explained pertaining to a particular question is very important from examination point of view. Thank you.